Hi everybody, Giselle Grenier here from ArtPlace.ca. In this book of backgrounds video, we're going to be working with some architectural, well not really architectural, more like a design drawing papers, some collage, some chalky finish paint. We're going to be doing some stenciling some black modeling paste and then embellishing with some wax medium. It's going to be something, I wouldn't say so much different, but I'm experimenting with blending two different lines of products and getting different effects. I'm going to be working on the back of this page. If you're joining me for the first time, you can visit ArtPlace.ca for a free book of backgrounds roadmap that will kind of give you an idea as to what this is. And if you don't want to do it on a book of backgrounds page, you can just use 140-pound mixed media paper. This one here is specifically Strathmore paper. And first thing we're going to do, of course, we're going to gesso our page. So gessoing the page not only makes it stronger, it also prepares it for your medium. Now my brush is a little bit damp because I cleaned it from another project. And for this one here, no, I don't particularly want the gesso transferring on the other side. If you're working in a bound journal, you can use wax paper underneath. The other way you can apply the gesso, I'll use a little one, is a palette knife, and you can scrape that on. Oh, there's some texture in here. You got to be careful when you use a palette knife, because if you've got delicate papers collaged on here, you want to make sure that it doesn't ruin that paper. Get the edges, making sure I'm not moving my paper. The good thing about doing it this way is that you do get a very, very thin layer of gesso. But again, just be careful that if you are gessoing over tissue that's been collaged, that you're careful not to rip it. You can get some different textures in there as well. If you really want to play, use a texture tool. This is one from DecoArt, and you can create some really cool lines. Oh, I like that. See? Actually, I'm going to leave that. I'm going to leave that. Oh, and I've been getting emails from people, thank you for all your emails, asking what I do with my little kitchen cloths. I throw them into a little bucket here that is full of water with winning colors. And at the end of the day, or 1000 Plus stain remover, also known as winning colors, at the end of the day, I just clean everything. And it just saves a little bit of money, whoops, on the cloths. I better clean that up a little bit better than that. And using old ratty paper towels, I use the Viva paper towels, so they're really strong. I like using those that have dried up to clean my unstick mat. All right, so we need to let this dry. You can heat set or speed up the drying time with the heat gun, which is what I'm going to do. And then when we come back, we're going to collage some. I don't even know. It's like a drafting drawing of a ship. So we'll be right back. I forgot a step. Back up. Before collaging, I want to apply some transparent red iron oxide because I want this to be old. And so I've got this is DecoArt Media Fluid Acrylics that I'm going to be using, but I'm still going to add a little bit of water to that. And it's almost like a stain, is what I'm making. And I'm going to apply that everywhere. You know what would be really cool? Oh, wait. Let's see what this does. On the unstick mat, oh, I've got, you know what? Did I dip that into the brush bucket? I had white in there. That looks a bit white. Let's see what this does. To look like a coffee spill. And I can, you know, do that naturally. Ooh. Okay, I'm not liking that thick part there. Not liking that thick part. Yeah, that's kind of cool. Let's dry this. That's a lot of liquid to heat dry though. Hang on a second. You can let this dry naturally so you get all the nice edges. Let's see what happens. Oh, that's too hot. Back it up. I want to hang on to that drip there. Ideally, I should let this air dry. Okay, so note for self, next time let it air dry because that was a lot of moisture. That was a lot of moisture. Isn't that neat? So let's add a bit more pigment. But let's hit that with some transparent yellow iron oxide. I'm almost out of that. See what happens when I get distracted during experiments? I've tried putting stuff aside and oh, it just doesn't work. Okay, now I do this part here. If you have the time and you push your paper down like this, put something heavy on top like that, and then leave it for about 10 minutes and then come back. I'm using the unstick mat, so I know that I'm going to be fine with that. If you have the time, you'll get a really cool effect because it'll have time to dry. And I'm liking this effect here only because I'm working with a nautical theme. I'm working with a nautical theme, and I thought it might be nice to have like a washy. What way is this paper? Oh, so this is going the other way. That is neat. That is neat, 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 neat. So if I put thick paint here, spray it with water. Bring it back. Okay, let's clean this up. Yeah, there's a saying, you know, you get distracted by this shiny object syndrome. Yeah, that's me in art. That's me in art. Oh, wait, what will this do? Oh. Rubbing alcohol. Okay, I'm not gonna play anymore. I'm gonna let this sit and dry naturally. The paper, unfortunately, is gonna cover a lot of this, but a little bit more dripping. What I like is that when this dries, it's got that hard painted edge on it, or the paint edge. And I really, really like that effect. There we go. All right, I'm gonna let that sit. Sorry for the distraction, you guys, but I think this is much nicer. Back in a second. Holy smokes, look how beautiful that is. Oh my God. I couldn't do this again if I tried, because just the way that the swirls and the alcohol, looks like there's a number 8. So I wonder if I could use that as something, but no, I'm going to stay on course because I have an idea what I want to do with this. I think this is what happens when I get distracted. Okay. I'm going to be using this. This is brand new. I just got it, and it's the Americana decoupage paper. This is shipped to shore. So I'm going to be using this one here. I love this. And the theme for this, I'm going to let, the way I'm creating the background is going to be prompt driven. So the actual, although the book of backgrounds is primarily just backgrounds and you create art based on the inspiration, this is going to be prompt driven. So the actual prompt, I'm looking at using the stencil, and it's the American Decor, is Postcard from Paris. And I may use just this word here. I may use this part here. I may use part of the stamp. I'm not quite sure. This is a big, massive postage stamp. Not quite sure yet. I want to make it kind of like, think of history, you know, the old ships, and, you know, using ships to transport mail type of thing, and, you know, that type of stuff. So I'm looking for a piece. Looking for a piece that might work for what I want. And I'm thinking these look like this here looks like it ends, starts again here. So this could be seamed. If I do this, let's see. So if I were to, I don't want to use the whole thing. So I'm thinking, yeah, I'll do that. I'm going to tear it. I'm not going to cut it. And which part am I going to use? I don't want to lose this. I'm liking that. Let's just go for it. Let's just go for it. There's nothing worse in art than doubting yourself with what you're doing, because I'm thinking, I'm going to ruin this background. It doesn't matter. That's not the purpose of the book of backgrounds. The book of backgrounds is for experimenting. If I want to do it bad enough, I can do another one of these. And then I'm going to tear that. Yeah. Yeah. I want that bottom piece though. Like that. So that's going to give me the guidelines. Okay. This side I can cut the top and bottom because I'm going right to the edge. So I'm going to cut just past the fold line, which will give me room to trim it. And with this paper, from experimenting before, I'm going to be putting a barrier layer on this so I don't lose it. So I don't just damage the paper. Not quite complementary colors, because transparent red iron oxide, you think it's red. It's a little bit more on, I think on the orange side, it's a little bit orange, especially because I mixed in the transparent yellow iron oxide. No, I'm not going to use those. Stay on course. All right. Matte medium. Matte medium. Oh. And going to be, get that paper. I had to turn the paper upside down so it didn't distract me. Where are we? Where's my 3/4 inch wash brush? There we go. And it's a little bit damp. And this I can cover the whole thing. It doesn't matter because we were going to be putting a barrier layer on the paper anyways, so it doesn't matter. A barrier layer would just allow more light to shine through. If it's for painting, for this one here, it's not really going to apply. But if you were creating multiple layers, multiple transparent layers, putting a layer of matte medium in between each paint layer will allow more light to shine through. And when it comes, the light bounces back at you, it's really, really rich. Make sure I got a good amount on this because there's a lot of texture on here. Okay. Booyah. Going to use, where's my texture tool? Where's my texture tool? I should actually get the smaller one. And what I'm doing is I'm pushing the medium, burnishing the paper, pushing the medium that's under there, any of that texture from the gesso, but I'm being very careful so I don't tear the paper. When it did, I think I tore it. No, I didn't. That's just the paint. There we go. Now I can use a little bit of water on my fingers, but be very careful because the more I do this, I'm likely to pull the fibers up on the paper. So you gotta be really, really careful if you wet your finger on that. And oops, I put that brush in the water. I think I want to let this dry first. Let me just hit that with the heat gun. And I'm going to apply another layer. And what this is going to do is protect the paper. And I'm only doing this because I'm not quite sure what I will be doing later on. I mean, because I'm going to be putting paint on top of this, then, you know, you don't need to add the barrier layer. But I'm being more proactive because even though I'm going to be putting some of the chalky paint on here and the modeling paste, and I can create my art on the side, if I wanted to do a technique on when it comes to the actual art portion of the project, which is phase 2, and if I wanted to do something on here, I would have to try to add the matte medium around the modeling paste, and so I might as well just do it now. It doesn't hurt. It doesn't hurt at all. So I'm going to tilt this now, and I'm just going to make sure I have some brush strokes, and it's, see, that way they're not all just vertical, and it'll create a little bit of texture. And then when this dries, this part here, I'm not going to speed up the drying time. I'm going to let this dry naturally. Because there's texture in here with the texture tool, I need this to dry by itself. Because if I do it with the heat gun, because it's so thick in here, the top may be dry, but the underneath won't be. And then I will trim that paper as well. Okie dokie, Smokey. I will be back when that's dry, probably about a half an hour or so. And then we'll... what are we going to do? We're going to take some chalky finish paint and distress some of the sides with that, and then we're going to come in with some modeling paste, and then we're going to let that dry. I'm going to say 24 hours when it's dry, and then we'll embellish it with some white frost wax metallic. That's all dry. Oh, I wish you could feel this. There we go. You can see a little bit through the paper. which adds some really nice texture. So I'm going to take a barely damp 1/2 inch glaze brush, and I'm just going to apply a little bit of this white. And it's just going to make it a little bit old, distressed, very, very little. And I don't know if I want to, well, I'll put a little bit here. It'll catch the gesso texture. And by keeping the brush just barely damp, the paint will catch. If the paint's too wet, then it's just going to sink inside it. Oh, there we go, like that. That's what I was looking for. The paint will just sink inside. Again, this is just a background, so don't get too caught up into the nitty-gritty. Let's do some horizontal strokes. There's a lot of texture there. Here as well. All right, just like that. Not too much. Okie dokie smoky. That's close that up. And I use the chalky finish because I wanted to be a very, very matte finish, because when we come in with the modeling paste, when that's dry and we come in with the shimmer, I didn't want to compete with a shiny acrylic with the metallics. I wanted this to really have a matte finish to it. There you go. That's pretty. So this is going to take a little bit of planning. I can either use the stencil halfway, and I apologize for the glare. I can either use the stencil half, where I see that. I can stencil just the text right here, which might not be just a bad idea because it'll still give me room to create some artwork. The swirls, no. I can come in with the border with this, make it look like a postage stamp. That might be an idea. Or come in with just the 15C and number 157, but the 157 is going to be right in the middle of the page. I would want to move it over here. Huh. What a conundrum. Put the 15C here, and yeah, that might be an idea. 15C here. That's too big. Again, just a background, but I want whatever to be visual, I want that to be the jump off point. I want to make sure that that's the theme of the page stands out. So that's going to be too big. So I think I'm going to use this one here. The 15C here, that should be here, and the text here. Okay. But let's come back to the, oh, here we go. Okay, if I do that here, that's going to cover this, so I'll have to heat set this. Okay. At the top. I'm going to stencil the text with just chalky paint. And I can just see through. I'm going to stencil it so light that it will just barely it'll barely be visible. Oh no, I busted my stencil on this side. I'm going to have to be so careful here. That was during cleaning. Oh, okay, that's really invisible. You really can't see that. Which is not necessarily a bad thing. Just a little bit more texture. No, I want that a little bit darker. So let's just wipe that back. Because we have that barrier layer on here, see? Wipes back really, really easy. And let me just wipe that down. Let me go to something a little bit darker. I'm going to go with the color that's in the base of this, which is the transparent red iron oxide. That's what I'm going to use. That way it won't compete, and it'll be just dark enough. And I don't want to get my head in the way. I probably should have put the paint down before, or after, I should say. Okay. There we go. Now I can see through the stencil. I've got a glare. That's better. Much, much better. And if the paint you had was shiny, apply another layer of matte medium on top of that and that'll get rid of the shine. You can also use, if your piece was for outside, you can use a decoupage, the decoupage medium, and they have an outdoor version, so you can use that. Perfect. Perfect, perfect, perfect. Oh. Okay, I couldn't have done that any better. So I'm going to clean this. Now, let me just dry this just for a sec, because I don't want the stencil, when I put the stencil over, to smudge it. Oh, I was told not to use that word anymore. Joe said, that's not a real word. Smudge is not a real word. And then 15C. Right there. And I'm going to be doing this with the black modeling paste. Okay, let's make sure that you guys can see what I'm doing. It's a little dark. And I'm using the black because I'm going to come back with the white frost, and just to show you. And never open your products up over your pieces. Okay, that's the white frost, that's the metallic. Being very careful, that way I don't jam up my stencil. And when I say jam up my stencil, it's when I work really fast and the palette knife actually gets caught underneath the stencil, and then the actual application is ruined. Okay, I'm just going to wipe that and just get a little bit on the tippy tip. There we go. I want to make that thin. And these stencils are super for this stuff. Oh yeah. Now it looks really harsh, but don't forget, we're coming back. We're coming back with the medium. The wax metallic. And you can see how flexible this is, because if you don't have the modeling paste, then just use black. I'm going to clean this now, and I'm going to let this dry. This will take, well, this has to be 100% dry when I apply the wax metallic, so I'm going to give this a couple of hours, and then we come back, we'll finish up the project. I had a bit of an accident, and I ended up smudging this. Instead of trying to get rid of it, I'm going to leave it. Okay, but isn't that gorgeous? Other than the smudge I dropped it. I tripped over the cat and I dropped this while putting it onto my drying rack. I also changed my mind onto the metallic I'm putting on there. I was going to put on white frost. Not going to, because it's going to be too bright. I'm going to use copper kettle, which is closer to the color of transparent red iron oxide. And I'm using a little stencil brush with a flat tip on it. And this is the Clear Choice. It's a 3/16 inch and nice and firm. Couldn't think of the word. And you want something small because you don't want to really get any metallic on the side. And I'm just hitting this to pick up all the texture in the actual modeling paste. You can also paint the modeling paste. Keep in mind, if you're using a transparent color, the black is going to show through, so you may want to paint it white and then paint it another color. Or even just use gesso. I hit a little bit stronger up here. I've got a glare from the light, so I apologize if I'm not making sense where I'm putting stuff. There we go. Okay, I'm going to close that. And I'm just going to clean that up. That aside, and now I'm going to get a clean cloth. And this doesn't take long to dry at all. And I'm just going to fold that in half and wrap that around my finger, and I'm just going to rub, which is going to buff it. It becomes permanent and it increases the shine much nicer. That's why you have to make sure that when you do this technique that it is 100% dry, the modeling paste. Otherwise, you know, when you do your wax on, wax off, it's gonna come off. There we go. That's it. It's finished. So I hope that you enjoyed this and it inspired you for some ideas on creating a themed design. So this is obviously nautical themed, kind of vintagey with a little bit of modern bling on it. So I already have an idea right now what I'm going to do with this and the next phase, which is creating the artwork. When it actually comes to that time, who knows? Who knows? So I would love to see a picture of what you've created on your idea on this type of design, or any of the other book of background designs, or any, you know, things that you create based on my videos. I would love to see a picture. So you can either email it to me or pop it into our private Facebook group. It's a free Facebook group made up of artists of all levels. Links to both of those are available at my website at ArtPlace.ca. So I'm going to clean up, get ready for my next project, and until I see you in the next video, stay inspired.